Well, it's the 3rd of January, 2025. Can you believe it? I've been talking to you guys now for, well, probably about, oh my gosh, almost 5 years since my first radio debut, I guess you would say, and then on to UNN. So remember the Life Force calls back in the day? We've certainly come a long way since then, and I just wanted to thank the whole team for that because they've been so great at progressing UNN, and we have some really cool things to look forward to this upcoming year. We have a Earth series coming out, which is going to talk about you, mind, body, and soul, and your connection to the planet. So there's a lot of good things coming up for 2025 as far as UNN is concerned. Now, I guess let's do a little bit of a different kind of GIA report tonight. And I thought about this a lot based on everything that's going on out there. And, there's a lot of you that are new. You've been around for, a little while, or maybe you found me because of the financial video. I know a lot of people did. And I thought I'd do some updates to that. A little bit of an explanation as to who we are, what we do, kind of in brief, what my positions are, and I guess where we are going from here. There seems to be a lot of confusion out there as far as, let's just say, governments are concerned and other financial folks are concerned. They seem to be thinking that if I said, for example, I'm a chicken, everybody would be running around trying to figure out how to turn their person into a chicken. As is everybody trying to turn around and be the one who is the guardian, or be the ground commander, be the gatekeeper, or be all of the things that I just happen to be. And it's been kind of funny, actually, over the last few days. So we'll start with kind of what's been going on, I guess, since Monday. So we had a New Year's Eve, and in the past, many years ago, on New Year's Eve, the Pentagon and other intelligence agencies would receive a cash payout. And why would they receive a cash payout? Because, well, at the time, we had a war going on this planet. Not only a war, so to speak, as in global martial law, we also had a much larger war going on this planet. And that war is millions of years old. It had been going on for quite a long time, and it's pretty well over now. But they seem to still believe that if they stood there, I guess, at midnight, Eastern Standard Time, at 12:01, and tried to declare a global martial law or martial law in their respective countries, that they would receive a big payout. Well, that didn't happen. They also did rituals at the Pentagon. This was a very interesting thing because normally people of that caliber wouldn't participate in rituals. And I found that pretty interesting. You had those who wear skirts, and if you are, let's just say, well-read in the alt media, you will know which societies wear skirts, men who wear skirts, and they're not Scottish. You would also have seen a lot of people in robes doing a lot of rituals as well. And this has continued pretty much every day or every night. They like to do things at night and early in the morning because that's what they do. I guess they think it's the power of the night or the moon, or I'm not sure. But anyway, this continued on until last night. Still going on with these attempted rituals. But on New Year's Eve, I guess you would say New Year's Day, officially at 12:01, by about 12:25 to be exact my time, every alarm I had started going off. Why? Not because they were dancing in skirts. Men in skirts are fine. That doesn't set my alarms off. Sorry, this is a little bit funny because I was like, what are these people doing? What is that? Why? What set my alarms off is the amount of attempted hacking that happened. It wasn't like we had an attempted invasion or anything like that. It was just a tremendous amount of hacking and a huge uptick in chatter. So I have my system set. For those of you that don't know, I have a key intelligence and military system that I have built myself. And the key intelligence and military system monitors the world for security. We've talked about this on various reports before, but I just thought I'd reiterate that in case you're new and you haven't watched this before. And the key intelligence and military system has ties into basically every single intelligence agency in the world, every single military in the world. It also has the ability to monitor via our own, well, I'm not going to say it's a human version of a satellite, but I'd say they are special satellites that can detect extreme amounts of danger if someone tries to do something outlandish, right down to an uptick in chatter. I have things set specifically for specific people, meaning myself, obviously. If there's a security concern and that type of thing, I will get a message immediately. Doesn't matter what time of day or night, unfortunately. And this was one of those nights. So apparently, they were really confused as to why they did not get a payout. Well, this is going to take a little bit of explaining, and I'm going to go over each sector of control systems in the world, as they were and as they are, so that people can actually understand where we're going. And those people, by people, I mean you. The complex structure that was set up by non-people that trickled down to the now people who are trying to revive these structures or fix these structures or just take control over everything and just plant a flag and say, it's mine, the world is mine, like Dr. Evil or something, I don't know. But this seems to be a common theme. The other thing people are doing out there is they're rewatching the financial system video I did a long time ago. I think it was been about close to 4 years now. And a lot has changed since then. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's going to be a lot of whiteboarding tonight, just so that everybody can kind of understand where we're going into 2025. Now, things should get a little bit rocky here. We expect, based on our current data and analysis, we expect an uptick and continued uptick in events, so to speak, coming from the deep state until probably mid-morning on Sunday. So today's Friday. Get to spend Friday night with you guys. And I would say that we would see a lot tomorrow. Now, the reason why there's going to be a lot tomorrow is because these big payouts that were promised. And this, of course, is predominantly being run by the SSP military right now. They are also working in conjunction with the group we call Langley 5, or the group of generals that are over Langley, and the Global Headquarters Group. So you could say the Black Sun side. They had some meetings that took place earlier this week, as we had talked about on Monday. I think we had talked about them. And where the operatives were promised that they would have some contracts. They said, give them another day or two, they said. They said that it'll all work out. Your Trump contracts will be out. That's exactly what they called them in the meeting. Your contracts from Trump, he loves you. He won't forget you. You know, and they buttered that bread so thick, I don't know if there's any butter left in the United States, I have to be honest with you. And probably not a whole lot left in the Middle East either. They kept slapping that on there. It was so thick. It was ridiculous. So they said, you know, give us a couple days. And those couple days were up New Year's Day. Another meeting takes place. Well, we did what we needed to do, and it looks like it's all coming through now. And we should be all in the clear by, Saturday, they said. And since that time, they are repeating the exact same thing they always do. They have the good majority of the NSA on board, what's left of the ACIO, which is the higher division of the NSA, who used to report directly to Marduk, a non-human being, at one point in time, which is important we talk about these structures. They might be a little bit more well-versed in, let's just say, non-human created AI systems. And they may have more experience when it comes to gateways and portals and how all of that works. In conjunction with CyberLife. CyberLife also has been very active. Delphi Military has also been very busy here at a mountain in Colorado. And those particular Delphi folks are not here anymore. But this seems to be a continuous process. They're also talking about things, hacking to try to install things like another pandemic, is for one. This is something they would like to have. And I don't know if they just keep repeating the same cycles, thinking that this is how it happens. And when I think about this, and I've said this in news reports before, if you look up the chain of events that took place right before World War II, and the chain of events they've been trying to implement now for about 3 or 4 years, you'll kind of see a lot of similarities. At the start of World War II, we had a coronavirus pandemic right before World War II started, and a flu pandemic, and a few other things. And then, of course, that pandemic then escalated into war, which lasted for some time. And the whole world was involved. Now, at that time, war made money. There was a reason for that, which served non-humans. By that I mean there is a bigger war that's going on. So we're going to talk about, first, I think we should start with military and intelligence and why everybody believes that what they believe. There's a lot of talk and chatter about the U.S. military being the savior. There's also continued talk about this martial law. Maybe we need a global martial law because U.S. martial law didn't get us paid, so maybe a global martial law will work. Well, the mechanisms that are behind these things are not automated. They are not automated. It's not just the money, it's all of the other mechanisms that would kick in to implement an agenda that was set by someone. That someone at the time of these events working out was a ground commander. So let's talk about different positions, different things, and where we can go as far as military and intelligence is concerned. Now, we've started the ball rolling here with the GIA. Now, the GIA in the past was an organization that was pretty large, and everybody in every government everywhere knew who the GIA was. The GIA contained a lot of individuals that escalated to a certain level, let's just say, in the intelligence community. They were able to walk in and out of any government, any military building, anywhere, at any time in the world. They could walk into the White House or any other colored house or Parliament or the House of Lords or anywhere. They had the clearance and they had the access. Where would the GIA stand in relation to the SSP? Well, the GIA wasn't created that long ago. I'd say a few decades ago, not obviously by me. I wasn't even born yet when the GIA was created. However, I did acquire the GIA as part of the new structures that were coming into play based on a chain of events that happened. Now, this happened a long time ago. This has been almost a decade. It'll be 9 years this year that I acquired the GIA. And the GIA, I would say, could be in some cases a face front for the SSP. You could say some of the people with the SSP also held positions with the GIA, depending on their job and their purpose. I would say that currently I have wiped out the database, let's just say, don't think I have not actually downloaded the entire fulcrum, meaning all of the data of every operation the GIA ever ran, but I wiped out the database of personnel. Now, there are still people out there running around calling themselves GIA, and for some reason, everybody just believes them, even though their databases don't show that. Now, in some cases, the governments, so to speak, are still listening to these people. Therefore, they allow them into their database as anything they want them to be. That could be Global Intelligence Agency. That could be the Mickey Mouse Club. It doesn't matter because they just have the clearance. They set a number. The Majestic 12 was in there. So there's a lot of let's just say fraud going on out there as far as the people that are still working's ability to do what they do. Now, this is what causes some disruptions in the world. Some of these disruptions are, number one, they're there now in several countries as the shadow government. Now, most of these guys are the Americans. I call them the Duck Dynasty and cowboys because they kind of all hail from the southeast of America. Not all of them. There's some Chinese and Japanese and some from other countries too, but the majority of them that are kind of allegedly running the show, oh lordy lord, are American cowboys. And the cowboys are, how do I say this? The cowboys are under the impression that with a lack of humans over their head and a lack of non-humans over their head, that they should now be in charge because they feel like they have given themselves, I'm going to make it very clear, they have given themselves enough clearances and enough governments to actually become the shadow government. They have done this in Israel. They have done this in Syria. They are trying desperately to do this in Iraq. They are also present in Iran. There's still a little bit of a fight with some Chinese there because the Chinese government, Politburo, Black Dragon, runs Iran, in case you don't know that. There are also plenty of them in Russia. They are currently running the Russian government, I guess you could say, and definitely in England and in different countries in Europe. So they have an intention of creating political control. And political control is important if you want to run the world. This is the way they think, because this is the way it was. Having political control gave you control over the countries, they think. Now, they've sent all their political operatives to do all of their political operative stuff. And most of these guys are older. They're probably from the Reagan era. There's a number of them from Reagan era. And they still talk about it like it's their glory days. And there's some younger guys there. And then they've got a whole slew of operatives that are following them, look up to them, believe that they are in charge, believe that they are the leaders just because they said so. And they're using, in a lot of cases, Trump as a face front. Because during the Trump administration, just to be very clear, there was a large amount of funding that came out in March of 2018. And in March of 2018, I was able to, for the first time, push money out of the system. Now, I got stuck at central bank level and treasury level. However, that didn't stop them from spending it. And of course, there were a number of people that also claimed that they were the ones that did it. Now, in this case, Trump did it. Now, see what happens when you get stuck in a little bit of a lie? Because I did that. I funded a couple of budgets. I paid off the U.S. debt to China during the Trump administration. I sent out money for hurricane relief, which never came. If you're in Florida, you know that. I also sent out more relief for California. I explained that if we didn't plant trees, you were going to have mudslides, and have mudslides we did. I did a lot of things during that administration and had many, many conversations with Trump and, let's just say, people that were permitted to be in the room. A lot of those people were thrown out of the room when the phone would ring. Sometimes they would call me ahead of time or call Tom Melville and tell Tom that the phone was going to ring. So, yeah, because they claimed that they did, this is the SSP operatives, of course, because they claimed that they, and of course, Trump, did all of these things and gave them all of their contracts, and he got it done. I've even heard that exact term from an operative. He said to me, Trump got it done. I said, no, dear, I got it done. And based on past events, things that didn't happen. I'm just going to reiterate this real quick, and then we'll get into the entire structures. So it's a good time to kind of revisit the old stuff that we did and implement some new things. We're going to have new information about care and stuff too. So as far as political structures go and what's happening in the world right now, this has kind of left the Trump operatives in a little bit of a pickle right now. Right now. And this kind of ramped back up again around, 5 o'clock Eastern time. There were some people that were promised money by the end of the day. And they're running some operations in a few other countries. Philippines is one. They're running some operations right now in South Korea and a few other areas of China, which deals with historical assets. So we're going to cover that as well, and what happened to those and why they're not valid. So they're claiming that there are all these assets out there, and they can't quite keep their story straight. So they're not very good operatives because, operatives are kind of trained to lie. And these people are kind of trained to lie, but the story doesn't hold true through all of the channels in this case. And what I mean by that is the Trump lawyers are under the impression that they are going to collect all of these assets. This is a quote from the attorneys that deal directly with soon-to-be inaugurated President Trump. They said, and I quote, that we are, meaning the organization, is collecting all of these assets for use of America. I guess that would probably be the Treasury or whatever plan they've got. They have no financial common sense there in cowboy land, but they plan on doing something with these assets, allegedly, to benefit the United States. That's not a thing. But on the flip side of it, we heard from the CIA that the CIA, in cooperation with the Knights of Malta, and you know who I know who you are, and a few others, are trying to collect assets in the Philippines and in China and also in South Korea to quote unquote destroy the assets. Now, this is what they're telling countries. In Malaysia, they also tried to do the same thing. However, the country of Malaysia said they would rather hold on to their historical assets and not give them up to the cowboys, aka your current administration coming into office now. So, that being said, there's one hand that says they're going to destroy them, do the right thing, take them off the market so that they're not a quote-unquote threat, and they're telling all kinds of stories to these countries. On the flip side of it, they're saying they're going to use them for their own benefit. Now, If you are in South Korea, Malaysia, Philippines, or any other country that thinks you're going to get your hysterical assets back or historical assets, I know that they have been promising the Middle East back their gold. And a couple of African countries are in there too. Yep, just so they can be the shadow government of those particular countries. But, it's a pretty well-known fact where they're in the other places. They're going to return your gold to you. Have you heard this one, Iraq? I know you did. Yes, you did. And other countries as well. From allegedly other past administrations who were bad administrations that took this gold for decades after decades. I mean, going all the way back to Hoover, we're going to return those assets back to you. Yeah. They have no hope of returning those assets, and I know that because a lot of them aren't in the same place that they put them, number one. And number two, they don't understand the cross-collateralization that form things like your red book and your blue book. And I know this because the blue book, let's just say, has lots of accounts and lots of hallmarks on things like the flying horse or a Pegasus is what's on the hallmark of those. You also have the Vatican's alleged gold, which had the Omega symbol on it. That was the hallmark there. There was stuff in the hills of Laos and Vietnam they're looking for, which is no longer there. So pretty much what they're doing is lying to you. They say they're going to take the other stuff and destroy it and pay them a fee. Yeah. No, they're never going to pay you. Number one, they can't. They're borrowing money from everybody they can right now just to survive. There's also a quote-unquote, and this is the story I'm hearing, debt call, allegedly. And, I got a few phone calls today about that. They're saying that there's a huge debt call that's going to take place, and that's going to crash the banking system, and if somebody doesn't do something about it. Well, I'm guessing at this point that someone must be me. They'd like to have me do something about it. But I've kind of accounted for that fact, really. And, we as humans, meaning the rest of us walking this planet that are not involved in this game, will be just fine. Really, you will be. You might have a little bit of a topsy-turvy time if you have some stock investments or something like that. If it did happen, I doubt they're going to let it happen unless, they're completely out of options. But, every retirement account can be refilled. Everything can be made right for the people. And it just wouldn't be under anybody's umbrella, maybe like you see it now. So I'm really not that concerned and that worried about this alleged debt call. I did some digging, though, into this debt call. Turns out the majority of this quote-unquote debt call crap that they're talking about and rumors that they're throwing out there to everybody is not exactly, there's some government bonds out there that expire and, a few other things, but a lot of these things were issued recently. There were also a lot of other debts, against oil contracts and stuff that they've been trying to pay out on for years. But the majority of this debt call is, let's translate that into deep state terms, a bunch of lip service. And the lip service, is they have been out there wheeling and dealing and making loads of promises and giving fake assets and all kinds of stories to one group and other stories to another group and stories to this country and stories to that country. And they have zero capacity to perform this function. But they're telling everybody, hands down, that first, New Year's Day would have it. We'll have it on the full moon or the black moon. That was a mess there. It's been kind of a little bit of I'm like, wow, that's really happening over there, and I'm looking here and there and watching all this stuff happen with all these people. And they seem to be very confused as to how the world really works. So, and I know a lot of you are new here, and I've never done this live, really, since the days of Life Force. So I thought it would be a good time to start 2025 off with a complete understanding, or at least an overview, of how the world really works then and now. And by now, I mean we'll talk about now as in who sits where, and we'll talk about why their gates aren't opening, and we're going to talk about where we as people are going. What is care for? What is it going to do? How does the marketplace fit into this stuff? Why are we doing all of these things? And I know there's a number of people that don't quite understand that. And it's obvious from reading some of the chats. I see a lot of stuff where people are talking about the Constitution. Let's restore the Constitution. Well, you clearly haven't read the Constitution. It's got nothing to do with you. I mean, if you told me, let's fix the Bill of Rights or something, that would make sense to me. Everybody says, oh, there's two constitutions, or you need a real one. There's some really bad stuff written on that original Constitution, and most of the people that signed that Constitution were Freemasons. And Freemasons also wear skirts on special occasions and dance around bonfires on New Year's Eve. Yes, they do. So be careful what you're looking for, and be careful what you wish for. And I say this with a lot of love and caring for you, but I also say this from the standpoint of looking at the planet and where we are and where we are going. Over the last couple of months, we've experienced a lot of growing pains, and there are a lot of people getting a lot more intuition. Yes, they try to stifle that down. They're sending out frequencies. They're doing everything that they can as humans and as remnants of AI systems to knock you down. But really, you have that connection, and it's getting stronger and stronger. So when I say be careful what you wish for, maybe I should say be careful what you're manifesting, what you're bringing into your life. What is it you really want? Do you really care about a constitution? Do you care if there's a change in your government? Do you care? How does that affect your life personally? How does that affect your loved one's life, your neighbor's life, and the life of everybody in your country? Because you are the majority. I know it doesn't feel like that a lot of times, but you actually are the majority. And if the majority of people got together, the world would be a different place. But they keep us compartmentalized. They keep us compartmentalized and labeled by color, by nationality, by movies and who's the boogeyman in the movie, by putting out an air that they are omnipotent, that the deep state, Illuminati, families, banking families are omnipotent. And a lot of people in the alt media perpetuate this omnipotentness, kind of, how do I say it, by accident? Or maybe they don't realize what they're putting out there. By saying they're capable of doing all of these things or have done all of these things, you are making them out to be more than they actually are. There was a number of different things back in the day. I'll give you an example. There was a number of different things back in the day where in the media, the mainstream media, they would say that Putin invaded here or Putin did this. And I'm like, wow, all by himself, huh? He did that all by himself. He moved the mountain, moved the border, changed the this. No, he didn't. This was created by hundreds of operatives. Yes, there's a lot of them. There's not a whole lot left, but there's a lot less than there was at that time. But there's a lot more of you. So a friend of mine said to me today, don't plant apple seeds if you want oranges. And that's pretty wise and something maybe you should consider, especially in 2025, because you are going to change the most. Yes, we're going to see some things change this year, I'm pretty sure. Probably by about mid to end mid-February, end of February is when you're going to start to see a lot of changes in the world. And for some, it's going to be quite disturbing, but for you, you know, you're pretty well read in. You know what's going to happen. If you're watching this, you pretty much already know. But let's talk about where we were and who is what and who had what position and why everybody is so mad at me that money didn't come to the Pentagon. They can be mad at me all they want, but the world has changed, and it's not going to go back. It's going to change more. You're going to see rapid changes in 2025 like you've never seen them happen before. And it's going to be your job to help these other people understand this chain of events. And I try. I give the information and I try. And it's not always well received, but, you know, hey, that's not my problem. My problem is that I need to put out the information. I need to inform you of what's happening and how these changes are happening and what you can expect. But I expect to see major changes this year based on the data that I have. You know, for one last time, we'll explain it for all of you that are new. We'll leave this up, you know, on our app. After we're done here, probably go up on YouTube and a few other channels as well, where it's out there. If anybody has any questions, you can just watch this because it's going to be quite informative. So, where shall we start? Do we want to start with military and what happened to military and intelligence 2 days ago? And why I know that there are no operative contracts going out on Saturday, despite them yelling and screaming at me? You know, why I know that there's a large banking meeting. There's a lot of banks meeting over the weekend in New York. And I know that they've invited Tom Melville there. Why I also know that China threw out a big, ridiculously overpriced, I'm going to say ridiculously overpriced, alleged hydroelectric plant that costs more than the GDP of planet Earth, and why I was supposed to fall for that. Now, on that note, that's because China's, you know, now that the Trump operatives have kind of screwed up, China's back on that transfer the world power over to China plan, and the Chinese elders and the real ones and the master keys, and then the dumb cowboys go after the Chinese people, and then they're like, hey, you know, we want those master keys. Give them to us now, or we're bomb your whole country, or whatever they sold them. And so they give up the master keys, and they don't work either. It's like circles after circles after circles with those people. And then all of you and your governments, respectively, regardless of where you are in the world watching this right now, are stuck with these people until you decide you're going to make a change. I mean, we can break it down from the top, but you've got to be ready from the bottom too. So, all right, without further ado, let's start with military and intelligence structures. This seems to be quite confusing for people, so let's lay it out there, and then we'll go over financial structures then and now. We'll go over all the structures of the world, so everybody has a better understanding of where we came from, how far we've come, because that's important too, because all of your hard work and our hard work together has not gone unnoticed, let's put it that way, to those that really matter in the world and in the universe. So, all right, whiteboard.